Alright, let's set the tone for the weekend then, because we're getting closer and closer to that derby clash against Partick Thistle in the Cup, and things are starting to ramp up again around Celtic Park. What maybe went a little under the radar this week is that we're actually in our final proper free midweek for a while now. And that's assuming you're not counting international breaks, of course. Because once we hit Sunday's game, it's basically nonstop until Christmas. We're talking weekend fixtures, midweek European nights, more weekend games, and so on. No breathing room. The calendar is about to get brutal, and Celtic's squad is going to be tested on every level. So while things may have felt a bit calm over the last couple of days, it's really the calm before the storm. After Partick, we're heading into the Europa League group stage, starting with a tricky away trip to Serbia against Crvena Zvezda, or Red Star Belgrade, as many still call them. And from there, it's relentless. No glamour ties like Real Madrid or Leipzig from the Champions League last season. Maybe, but these are not walkovers. Roma, Red Star, Sturm Graz, these are serious European clubs. They've got pedigree, they've got budgets, and they've got fan bases that create proper hostile atmospheres. So if anyone's thinking this Europa League run is going to be a step down in intensity, they're in for a rude awakening. It means Brendan Rodgers will be leaning on depth and fast. Rotation's not just going to be helpful, it's going to be essential. We've already seen signs of that beginning, especially with the injury situation. The most obvious one, of course, is Alistair Johnston. The Canadian right-back popped up recently on a podcast back home, parked the bus, and gave a bit of insight into his current condition. And the news, honestly, wasn't too bad. He says he's ahead of schedule in terms of recovery from the hamstring tear he suffered in that first leg against Karabakh. No surgery, which is a huge positive. But he did mention this is the first time in his career that he's had a muscle tear, so it's uncharted territory for him. He's at that tricky stage where he feels ready to train, maybe even to play, but the medical team have to be cautious. One wrong step, and he's out even longer. It's about being smart now. There's also Austin Trusty, who's been struggling with plantar fasciitis, a nasty, lingering injury that doesn't just go away overnight. By the sounds of it, he's still a good few weeks away from returning. Anthony Ralston is in a protective boot, and it looks like he'll miss at least this weekend and probably next week as well. And then there's Hoda, still on his long road back from a major injury. We last heard he could be back around the turn of the year, which means there's still a fair chunk of rehab left for him. Honestly, with these sorts of injuries, it's not just about getting fit. It's about getting sharp again, getting confident, and shaking off the mental baggage that often lingers. Nobody wants to say it out loud, but there's always a question. Will he come back the same player? You hope so, of course, but it's never guaranteed. These things take time. But while some names are on the treatment table, others are stepping into the spotlight. And one of the biggest talking points this week has been Kelechi Iheanacho. The Nigerian forward might just be finding his feet at Celtic quicker than anyone expected. That penalty against Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, that moment might turn out to be pivotal. Turns out, it wasn't even supposed to be him taking it. Benji Negrin was originally set to step up, but Brendan Rodgers stepped in and made a call. He saw the opportunity. A debut goal in front of the fans, the chance to instantly make your mark. So he gave the nod to Iheanacho, and to be fair, he took it brilliantly. Confident, composed, slotted it away like he's been doing it for years. What's fascinating here is the relationship that seems to be developing between Rodgers and Iheanacho. It feels almost personal. There's trust there, belief, and after a rough spell in England where he seemed to lose his way a bit, maybe that's exactly what the striker needed. He's still only in his late 20s, not even close to finished, and he's had massive moments in his career already. That Community Shield winner against Manchester City a few years ago, Rodgers referenced it this week, actually shows the kind of big-game temperament he has. It's not out of the question to think we might be getting a revitalized player, someone with a point to prove and the talent to back it up. We also got a sneak peek at training this week thanks to that Lennoxtown video on Celtic TV. It looked like a fairly high-intensity session despite the dry weather. Tempo was up, spirits looked good. Most of the main attacking options were involved, including Tinkty, who, by the way, continues to look sharper and sharper. He's electric, honestly. Quick feet, unpredictable movement, and just that raw edge that you love to see in a winger. Brendan Rodgers made a point this week of saying the squad needs to get the ball to him faster, not after 3 touches and a turn, but immediately. First time passes, hit him in stride, let him go one-on-one. Because when he's got space to attack, he looks like a problem for any fullback in the league. There's been a bit of chat about his end product, and some of it feels a bit harsh. Watching the game back, you can see he's creating chances. There was a brilliant cutback for Luke McCowan that could have easily been an assist. He's getting his head up, picking people out. But Brendan, being Brendan, is focused on the numbers. He wants goals and assists, not just flair and flashes. And to be fair, he's right. If Tankty can add that final layer to his game, the back post finishes, the low drives across goal, the shooting after a cut in, then we're talking serious output. 15 or 20 goals a season wouldn't be out of the question. You add 10 or more assists to that, and suddenly you're looking at a player who could be Celtic's next major export. Brendan's got a track record with developing players like that. And if the signs so far are anything to go by, Tankty could be the next one in line. Another player quietly making an impression is Kobe Donovan. Rodgers praised his mentality this week, said he trains the way he plays, full of intensity and aggression. That's exactly what you want from a young defender breaking into the side. He's got a clear shot at some serious game time now, especially with Ralston out. If he can grab this run of matches and really settle in, it could be a breakout spell for him. Elsewhere, the likes of Daisen Maeda and Ballet Wisha are still being counted on, even if they haven't exactly lit things up so far this season. Rodgers acknowledged it's been a tough summer for Daisen, but the feeling is he's ready to kick on now. And as for Ballet Wisha, it's all about unlocking consistency. The raw talent is there. You can see it in moments, but moments aren't enough. Celtic need 90-minute performances, week in, week out. Still, there's that little spark of hope that he'll come good. Maybe this run of fixtures, where squad rotation will force changes, is the time he gets his shot. And with all of that going on, it's easy to forget that we're heading into a celebratory year soon. Celtic's 60th anniversary of that iconic European Cup win in 1967 is coming up, and the club are marking it with a special crest for the 2026 to 2027 season. Early leaks show a redesigned badge, same Celtic core, but with a gold trim and 60 degrees anniversario stylings. It's sleek, and it's got that retro-modern feel. Makes you wonder if we'll get a darker green kit with gold accents, something reminiscent of that brilliant 2007 to 2008 strip. If they get it right, it could be one of the most iconic kits in years. No word on the actual jersey design yet, but you can already feel the buzz. And that brings us nicely into what could be one of the more intriguing weekends of the season so far. Partick Thistle away in the Cup is never a guaranteed result, no matter the gap in quality between the two squads. And let's be honest, Firhill's one of those places where you just never quite know what you're going to get. It's tight, it's old school, and when that crowd gets behind their team, it becomes a proper football ground. Celtic will need to be switched on from the first minute, and with rotation almost certain, that adds a little unpredictability into the mix. The expectation is that we'll see some fresh faces in the starting 11. Kelechi Iheanacho has made a strong case for another start, and not just because of the goal. There's a presence about him. Someone who looks like he's finally enjoying his football again. And that's massive. Confidence in strikers is everything. You miss one chance, and it plays on your mind for weeks if you're in a bad place. But if you're riding high, you believe every shot's going in. Rodgers clearly understands that. That's why he gave him the penalty. That's why he's backing him so early. This could be the game where we see Iheanacho really take the reins and start leading the line with authority. But what will be just as interesting is how the rest of the team shapes up around him. Will Rodgers go with Tankty again on the wing? The temptation will be there. He was one of the biggest positives from the last outing, and when a player's in that kind of form, you don't want to put the brakes on. Even if he only plays 60 or 70 minutes, it could be enough to cause some chaos and set the tone. The challenge for the rest of the squad, then, is to match that energy. Too often in games like these, Celtic have started slowly, thinking the quality would eventually take over. But you can't afford that kind of complacency in the Cup. One mistake, one lapse, and you're out. And if there's anything this squad should have learned from the last 12 months, it's that no game can be taken for granted. The midfield continues to be a bit of a concern, though. There's just something missing in that area, a bit of steel, a bit of control. We've got plenty of players who can pass, who can move, who can link play. But when the tempo rises and the spaces get tighter, sometimes it looks like we're lacking someone who can dominate physically and set the rhythm. It might not be something that's fixed overnight, but if Rodgers is going to rotate, maybe it's worth giving someone like Home a start, or even tweaking the system slightly to find that balance. Still, if the attackers can click, and there's real promise that they might, then it could cover a lot of flaws elsewhere. Maeda will be hungry to remind people what he can do. He's been a bit in and out this season so far, but his work rate is always top class, and you get the sense he's due a big performance. If he gets space to run into, especially if Partick push up a bit too high, he could do real damage. Same goes for guys like Johnny Kinney and even Shunsuke Yamada, who haven't had too many minutes, but were clearly involved in the training this week. This could be a chance for one or two of them to make a statement. The whole point of this squad build was depth, real depth, not just warm bodies on the bench. And we're about to find out whether that investment is going to pay off. The next couple of months are going to be relentless. As we said earlier, there are barely any free midweeks until the new year. That's a massive ask, physically and mentally. But it also means opportunities. Injuries will happen, suspensions will happen, and guys who maybe feel on the fringes right now could suddenly find themselves thrown into big European nights or league deciders. That's the beauty and the chaos of football at a club like Celtic. You've got to be ready at all times, because things change fast. And while there's still frustration in certain areas, the midfield balance, the inconsistency in some individual performances, it feels like the mood around the club has started to shift a little. That late winner against Kilmarnock wasn't just 3 points. It was a moment. One of those little turning points you look back on later in the season and say, that's when things started to click. Because up until then, there had been this feeling that we were a team still trying to figure things out. Not bad, not broken, but not sharp either. That one moment, that goal, it felt like a spark. The celebrations on the pitch, the reaction from the fans, it all felt just that bit more alive again. And that's what's been missing at times. Not effort, not even quality, but belief. The belief that this team can go on a run, that it can find form, that it can go to tough places and win. And once that belief starts to creep back in, everything looks different. The passes are crisper, the movement is sharper, and suddenly guys like Ballet wish to stop overthinking every touch and just play. That's where we need to get to. And a good cup win this weekend could be the next step toward that. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. A storm of whispers has been swirling through Glasgow, and it seems the green half of the city has just lit the fuse on one of the most eye-catching stories of the season. Word on the street is that Celtic have pulled off a sensational coup, bringing in Turkish international YUSUF YAZICI, a playmaker known for his velvet touch, sharp eye for goal, and the sort of creativity that can unpick the tightest of defenses. YAZICI's arrival has the hoops faithful buzzing with excitement, and their rivals suddenly looking over their shoulders. Sources close to the deal hint that negotiations were kept under wraps for weeks, with Parkhead Chiefs moving quietly but decisively. The 27-year-old, who carved out his name in Lille and dazzled on the European stage, is now set to swap League One for the Roar of Paradise. His reputation for delivering in big moments, think Europa League hat-tricks and game-changing assists, has already whetted appetites in the East End of Glasgow, where the faithful crave both dominance at home and renewed firepower in Europe. Of course, no rumor this big comes without a touch of drama. Skeptics mutter about whether YAZICI can adapt to the physicality of Scottish football and whether the pace of the Premiership will test his mettle. Others wonder how he'll slot into Brendan Rodgers' system, where fluid pressing and relentless energy are demanded. Yet, the optimists see only possibilities. A player with the class to unlock stubborn low blocks, a set-piece threat, and a footballer capable of adding a new dimension to Celtic's attack. Already, pubs and supporters' forums are ablaze with speculation. Will YAZICI light up the derby against Rangers? Could he be the missing piece for a deeper Champions League run? For now, it remains a rumor, a tantalizing whisper carried on the wind through Glasgow's rain-slick streets. But if it proves true, this might just be the signing that tilts the balance of power and cements Celtic's ambitions well beyond Scottish soil. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.